Hello everyone and welcome back guys to round 16 of the F1 2019 HAAS Road to Glory Career Mode Season 2, and we head to Russia. And I apologise for those of you guys who are a little bit disappointed. I got called Maldonado in the last race of this series. I think that really does explain our Singapore Grand Prix luck so far in this series. But yeah, obviously if you guys missed out on that video, definitely there were some good battles whilst it lasted. There's no real point in trying to hide some spoilers from that race. It was certainly a bit of a disappointment at the end of the day. But coming though into the Russian Grand Prix, another upgrade on the car, the engine powered pistons upgrade now on as well. You can see on the development update we are making big gains on Mercedes, pulling away from Mclaren as well here. The progress is still good, but I don't think we're going to have any rule changes for Season 3. So perhaps this is how, we're going to head into Season 3. They're still struggling a little bit with the performance relative to a lot of the AI. You can see just how much progress we have made though. The gap has definitely come down so far this season, and we've made some good closing down. But I think, Season 3, hopefully, I said this coming into Season 2, I know. Season 3, hopefully, we can really continue on the momentum. But I think we could genuinely be looking at 4, maybe even 5 seasons with HAAS in this game. It's definitely been a long grind so far on F1 2019. But I hope you guys are still enjoying it as much as I am as well. Unfortunately, content this week's going to be a little bit thin. I have got AOR hopefully dropping as well as the Japanese Grand Prix over the course of this week, but it's going to be quite quiet, I think, apart from that up towards the weekend as well. So hopefully you guys do stick around as well as we head in towards, the final few rounds of Season 2. I can't believe it. This season's had to run a little bit slowly, unfortunately, with just IRL stuff getting in the way. We haven't quite been able to, get daily uploads and things like that. But hopefully as we head down in towards Season 3, I can build up a little bit of momentum once again on F1 2019. But I don't want to make any promises just yet, I'll be honest with you guys as well. But anyway, that's enough of waffle for the start of this video. Let's jump on then. It's time for the Russian Grand Prix. We're here, ready for quali.
Welcome F1 fans, where qualifying will be starting in the next few minutes as the teams prepare to get out on track at the Sochi Autodrome here in Russia. This is the kind of track that eats rear tyres for breakfast, or so I'm told by more experienced drivers than myself.
No matter how good a driver is at managing their throttle application to limit rear slip, they can't always overcome a car that's inherently bad at looking after its rear tyres. Here we have a lot of low-speed corner exits, which means a whole load of energy, heat and tyre wear.
So here we are then, ready for qualifying for the Russian Grand Prix. And I've got to be honest, this track has suited us in the past. It's certainly a track that I feel quite strong at the end of the day. We're running very low fuel, trying to bring down the wings a little bit more as well, trying to go for a very aggressive setup. And honestly, Q1, nothing really to talk about. We got through on the first run, 1 minute 30.1, very happy with that one. Then nearly a second clear of my teammate Roman Grosjean. The AI, this is definitely not a track that is well suited to those guys, but I think it does suit this HAAS car as well. A couple of big straights, quite a power orientated circuit on the whole, despite the way it looks. There's definitely quite a few power zones around this track as well. With the best power unit in Formula 1, we can certainly try to use that to my advantage there. As you can see, Q2 though, not quite the way I wanted to finish off my first run there. You can see it was a really tight gamble as we head in towards our second run there, down all the way in P11 here, and we actually got onto our final run with 0.23 seconds remaining at the end of the session there. I did slow the footage down just to have a look at that. Less than quarter of a second onto my final run here. We saw this, I think, what was it, Jenson Button back at Spain 2009 when he was racing for Braun there. Those fractions of a second can really make the difference here. As you can see, heading down in towards Sector 2 here, really trying to, use this car, use the track as well. And you can see we're now quarter of a second up on my previous lap there, 0.3 of a second up as we head down in towards Sector 3 here, trying to get the drive through the final couple of corners of this lap here, 0.4 up as we head in towards the final double 90-degree right-handers here. What are we going to be able to do as we head through the final corner there? We're going to be 3.5 up there over the line. And is that going to be good enough for Q3? I think our second appearance, yes it is. It's P9 in the Russian Grand Prix Q2 session there. Really happy with that one at the end of the day there. I think, what's that, our second, perhaps our third Q3 session so far of the season there. And yeah, really, really happy with that one there. Devon Butler leads the way at the end of Q2 there, ahead of Leclerc and Perez. Vettel, Weber, Hulkenberg, Gasly, Verstappen, myself, and George Russell both make it through into Q3 there. So 7 teams making it through into Q3. We don't often see that in Formula 1 here. Nonetheless, though, 1 run in Q3. Then what are we going to be able to do here? Obviously, using up 2 sets of tyres in Q2. We certainly did have to, get it all or nothing on this final Q3 lap here. And, we were going to try and go for absolutely everything we possibly could. Wring everything out of this HAAS car here as we head down in towards turn 1 there. Try to get a nice run through the first couple of corners there. Really try to use the curbs as much as possible there as we now head down in towards turn 3 here. Trying to get the car nicely over on the left-hand side here as we head down in towards turn 4. Trying to open up the track as much as possible and take a little bit of a run through the next couple of corners there. See as we head down in towards the end of Sector 2 here. We're only a couple of tenths down on Sergio Perez's benchmark here. So we have had a really, really good run here. But Sector 3 is really where the AI are able to pull out a little bit from myself. We just don't quite have the, the aero and the chassis here. A bit of an interesting line, I'll be honest, as we head in towards the final complex of the lap here. Where are we going to end up, though? Through the final 90-degree couple of right-handers here on the end of my Q3 run here. Running a little bit under, with a bit of understeer through the final corner. That's not quite the line you're meant to take it to the line there, but it's P5 at the end of qualifying for the Russian Grand Prix there. That is by far and away, if I'm not mistaken, our best qualifying result so far of the season there. Just 3 tenths back. We beat Devon Butler by 1,000th of a second at the line there, and I'm not too sure if our final corner antics helped us out a little bit there, but I'll take it at the end of the day. The FI didn't have anything to complain about. You paid to get the car around the track as quickly as possible there. But Sergio Perez ahead of Hulkenberg and Vettel. This is a really, really good chance to try to build on the momentum we had at Spa and Monza. Could we potentially be on for our 3rd points finish inside 4 races? It's almost time then. We're ready for the Russian Grand Prix.
Welcome one and all to the Russian Grand Prix. We're just a stone's throw from the Georgian border here at Sochi as we get ready to begin the race that served up an absolute cracker back in 2015. A last lap collision between Kimi Raikkonen and Valtteri Bottas sparked controversy in that race, so let's hope the racing is just as tight today. It's full throttle for around 56% of the lap here at the Sochi Autodrome, a 3.6-mile run around the site of the 2014 Winter Olympics. 12 right turns and 6 left turns give us a total count of 18, with passing opportunities available into turns 1 and 13. Anthony Davidson also joins me in the commentary box today. Let's talk briefly about Lando Norris. Looks like they've got a tough race in store today as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a more aggressive approach today to make up for the compromised start.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Sergio Perez will lead us away from pole position, with Nico Hulkenberg alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Leclerc, Mr. Monaco, and Weber, Verstappen, Russell, Gasly, and Valtteri Bottas, Hamilton, Sainz, Roman Grosjean, and Raikkonen, Butler, Stroll, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Alexander Albon, Kvyat, and Lando Norris starts from the back of the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Okay, we qualified higher than we were anticipating. Let's see if we can do just as
So
well in the
here we
race.
are then, ready for the Russian Grand Prix. I'm really, really looking forward to this race nonetheless. It's going to be a fairly textbook one-stop race. The tyre wear has never been a particular issue here at the Russian Grand Prix, but very, very excited for this race nonetheless. Here, another good chance to try and score some good points. Really, the second half of this season so far, after the hypothetical summer break, has been good to us. But the 5 lights are on then, ready for the Russian Grand Prix, and it is 5 lights and it's lights out, and away we go here, off to a fairly not too bad a start, but not too good a start either there as we head down through the kink that is turn 1 there. Verstappen and Devon Butler both trying to look past me as we head through the first couple of corners. Actually, it's Lucas Weber as we head in towards turn 1 there, but George Russell out of nowhere is going to go for a full send through the first couple of turns there, but luckily we do hold on right around the outside there, spot the move up the inside. And yeah, we do hold on to P5 through the first couple of corners of this Grand Prix. We need to try and capitalise in the early stages, you know, really try and hold firm relative from the AI behind, because we have probably got quite a defensive race on our hands. The Ferraris and the Racing Points, they run another league this weekend. You know, it was nothing we could do. Renault looked there in qualifying, but once again, just really seemed to slack off right when it matters there. Renault just, they're basically the HAAS Road to Glory career mode version of Ferrari. I'll be honest with you guys, in this series though, as we head through the next couple of corners, you can see Charles Leclerc, Sebastian Vettel, Hülkenberg and Perez all starting to build up a little bit of a gap here. And well, we need to try and defend from George Russell here, but luckily the best engine in Formula 1, defending down the straights is probably our strong point so far in the second half of this series so far here. You can see through the final couple of corners, so trying to just watch for the understeer as we head now down onto the start of lap 2 here. And well, Sergio Perez, that whole train of cars, already building up a second a lap advantage of myself. It's almost like, you know, Mercedes Ferrari a couple of years back, just taking off relative, you know, from the Red Bulls there. Unfortunately, in this hypothetical, Red Bull are basically a midfield team nonetheless here from myself here. You can see lap 3 though we go, and yeah, really trying to build up a little bit of a rhythm here. On to lap 6, you can see we were still holding on from George Russell and the guys are behind here, but it was becoming increasingly difficult as we head down towards the end of the first stint here. The tyres, they weren't quite falling off the cliff just yet, but they were certainly starting to struggle here, and, you know, using up all the ERS, everything like that here. You know, Russell with the slipstream as well, that Mercedes power unit in the back of that Williams, certainly not weak in this career mode as well. Russell's going to try and look up the inside as we head in towards turn 1 there, and you can see just about get the car up the inside there. He does park it on the apex, and Lucas Weber now going to try and look around the outside as we head through the long flowing turn 3 here. Is he going to be able to get the move done? Yes, he does there. We're certainly going to try and take this one sitting down though. We're certainly going to try and come back at these guys as soon as possible here as we head through the next couple of corners here, through this tight, twisty sector 2 of this track here. You've really got to try and use up all of the curb as you possibly can, open up the circuit as much as possible, and that's what we're able to do at the moment here. And on to the start of end of lap 9 even, I should say, in this race. We really just couldn't get close enough there, and you can see a huge moment of wheel spin through the final couple of corners. You can see the tyres were gone, and we really did need to try and come into the pit lane as soon as possible. I think Verstappen thought we were trying to play it defensive from himself there, but yeah, we do slot down into the pit lane, get the car slowed down nice and tidy there, and yeah, we really do need to try and get onto a fresh set of rubber here and try to utilise the undercut. If it's even possible on this game, I'll be honest with you, I haven't really seen many undercuts working out all too well on F1 2019, you know, unless it's by a good sort of 2 or 3 laps here. The cold tyres really do make it difficult there to try and capitalise as quickly as possible. I accidentally hit the pause button as we head down in towards the pit lane. I'm going to call that our noob error, almost like, you know, being able to deactivate the pit lane speed limiter down the pit lane as well there. Fortunately, you can't do that on F1 2019, because I worry how many times we would have done that so far in this series there. But luckily, we do come out and clear out ahead of Giovinazzi. No idea what's happened to Grosjean in this Grand Prix. He's already down in P18 of this race there, so yeah, really not a good day to remember from my HAAS teammate here. And honestly, I'm surprised at this point that coming into Season 3, I would probably quite like to see Grosjean dropped from this team, because, you know, he's just not performing anywhere near where, you know, obviously there's that element, you know, we're racing the AI, we should have a little bit of extra strength, everything like that, but Grosjean, at least for me, is just not even performing where he should be most of the time as well there. And, you know, it's a bit difficult to say, you know, to your teammate, but 38 points, isn't it, to 0 in this series there. Grosjean is just not quite doing what he needs to be in the sister HAAS car there in this series there. We did make the move work on Lance Stroll there as well. You can see over the next couple of laps as the AI all start to make their pit stops there. George Russell and Lucas Weber there still up the road here, not able to make anything work just yet with the undercut as well here. You know, we're going to continue on and try to get closer once again in this race, because, you know, still we're less than halfway through here, and these medium compound tyres do really feel quite good on this car at the moment here. And still lap 12, you can see further on there, they're both getting caught out behind. I think that's Carlos Sainz. Yeah, Carlos Sainz in the McLaren car there, still yet to make his first pit stop in this Grand Prix. We are certainly going to try and close up towards the back of the McLaren car as we head down in towards the next couple of corners. They're up the inside of the McLaren there. Are we able to make the move work? We're certainly going to try and go for it there. We cannot afford to lose any time behind him, and that's what we've been able to do Now back up into P13 of this Grand Prix. I almost forgot where the position count was on F1 at 2019. I'm sure after 40 episodes of this series, I should probably be able to remember that, but still, let's start at lap 13 now. You can see a few more drivers starting to make their pit stops as well there. Now back up into P8 of this Grand Prix. I think we've just got the the Mercedes even, I think, of Hamilton still yet to make a pit stop in this Grand Prix here as we now head down in towards lap 13, towards the first couple of corners there. We're now closing up the gap once again to Russell and Weber there. And you can see one lap later there, now the McLaren, why do I keep calling it the Mercedes even? I'm having a meltdown in this race there. We get right around the outside of Russell though. Luckily my driving wasn't having a meltdown just yet, and I clearly spoke too soon there, running very, very deep through the next couple of corners there. Russell tries to look back around the outside as we almost hit the arm cone down at the end of the back straightaway here. Are we going to be able to get close enough once again to try and go for a move through the first couple of corners once again here? We're certainly going to try and stick close enough at the moment there. He hasn't got the slipstream from Lucas Weber. Weber has just absolutely bolted in the second stint of this Grand Prix there. As out of the final couple of corners we go. Are we going to be able to make the move on George Russell down in towards turn 1 and turn 2? We're going to have the DRS. He's just about going to give us some room. A very, very late move up the inside through turn 1 there. Luckily, that could have been a very, very big accident between the pair of us there. But luckily, yeah, we do hold on. And we now move ourselves back up into P6 of this Grand Prix there. But Weber, yeah, really, really gone for it in this Grand Prix. Got up a good margin of safety. He was actually hassling the Ferraris over these next couple of laps here. But you can see lap 16 now.
You're managing it well. Some information on Weber. They have some kind of mechanical problem.
And all the way onto lap 22 there. Lucas Weber has now got a bit of a mechanical issue. Not too sure what that has been for the Renault man here. You know, we had a bit of quite a few laps in this Grand Prix. Russell have really slacked off, and Verstappen have now actually been able to move himself up into P7 of this Grand Prix there. But Lucas Weber, how far up the road is he, and how much time is he losing in this Grand Prix? They can see the gap, 8.5 seconds as we cross the start-finish line. By the end of Sector 1, it was already down to 7.5 seconds there. You can see Weber, no idea what is wrong with that Renault car. Obviously, he said it was a mechanical issue, but really couldn't work out what was going on from there, because he was just losing time everywhere in the late stages of this Grand Prix. Already by the end of lap 24, the gap now down, you can see visibly, was down to, what, 2 seconds in this Grand Prix. Weber lost so much time in just a couple of laps here in this race, and really not the day that he would have wanted right towards the very end. But I think he's going to try and hold out right the way through to the end of this Grand Prix, just try and do anything he possibly can in that Renault car there as we head through the first couple of corners once again here. And we've got really, really good chance to potentially line ourselves up for 10 points once again in this series. I think that's what we got at Monza just a couple of weeks back, obviously, in a podium at the Belgian Grand Prix as well here. What a turnaround it's been so far in the second half of this season here. You know, a couple of tracks that I really, really like as well certainly have helped us out, but still, you know, if we can try and get consistent points in the, you know, the latter stages of this Grand Prix, you know, this championship, I'd really take that at the end of the day there. Because you can see, though, still, as I'm babbling on about, you know, trying to bring a bit of a turnaround to the HAAS team, we've closed up so much to Lucas Weber through Sector 2 there. He's trying to go and play it defensive on towards the back straightaway, but really nothing that he's going to be able to do against myself. Though we get the DRS, we get the slipstream. Yeah, Weber, a 2-second pace disadvantage. There's nothing he can really do. We're just a few laps even, sorry, I should say, to go of this Russian Grand Prix. Commiserations there to him, you know, my old F2 teammate. But yeah, unfortunately, it's just going to be too little too late there. And Renault, once again, is just another big, big blunder in this series that they really cannot afford to be making here in the late stages of this World Championship there. And yeah, 2 laps to go now, where you can see the gap to Weber has just opened up absolutely massively in just a few corners there. But up the road, though, still the Racing Point lead the way ahead of the Ferraris there. What a turnaround it's been from Racing Point heading into this Grand Prix weekend as well. I really wasn't quite expecting this pace to be shown from the team as well. You know, after a couple of rough rounds, you know, Monza was a good race for them, Singapore though, and obviously Italy as well. Hulkenberg had, Spa even, I should say. Now, not quite, I don't think the best race for those guys as well, but as we head in towards the final lap of this Grand Prix, you guys know me well, I'm not going to try and spice this up with unnecessary battling there. Verstappen was just behind us there, and yeah, it was going to be too little too late for the Red Bull, I think. With just a few corners to go of this Grand Prix there. As you can see, I think it is going to be Sergio Perez that takes home the race victory here in this Grand Prix. His second win of the season. Now, Racing Point seem to have another bit of a resurgence there. They had a really strong, you know, sort of Austrian and French Grand Prix, if I remember correctly there. And they are back on the top step of the podium once again. There, Sergio Perez always ran well around this Russian Grand Prix circuit there, and a fantastic job by him. Hulkenberg completes the Racing Point 1-2 there. What a turnaround it's been from a team, you know, that just, I think, 2 years ago, they were, you know, on the brink of collapse there. But through the final corner, it's P5 in the Russian Grand Prix. Another 10 points to add to our haul. What a turnaround it has been in the second half of this season. I will certainly take that.
And an incredible win for Racing Point. A brilliant performance. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a drive with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
Racing Point's performance today has shown that they can be competitive with the veterans of the sport. They're making their way out to the podium now as we speak, and the reaction from the crowd must be incredibly uplifting for them. And after this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. Not the result our points leader wanted, but it certainly makes things interesting going forward. Let's focus on the driver of the day. Anthony Davidson, who do you pick?
It's got to be Lando Norris, hasn't it? Smooth, confident and assured. I've got no doubt that he and his team are going to be over the moon with his performance today.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari continue to extend the gap at the top of the table. Meanwhile, good work from Racing Point this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. Well, that was certainly an incredible weekend of racing. Be sure to join myself and Ant for more exciting Formula One action soon.
So there we are then, that is the end of the Russian Grand Prix. Now, what a race it was at the end of the day. They see we did come through for P5 at the end of the day. Really happy with that one. As you can see, Racing Point though, Sergio Perez ahead of Hulkenberg takes home the 1-2 there. Charles Leclerc, fastest lap in P3, takes home 16 points, and that gap between him and Seb still coming down at the moment. I'd be a little bit worried if I was Sebastian Vettel as we head in towards the final few rounds of this season, because that gap is still closing down there. Verstappen and Bottas just behind myself there ahead of Russell, and Butler and Weber come through there. Weber still scores 1 point there, but gutting for him at the end of the day. They're ahead of Norris and Mercedes, P12 and P13. Not really what Hamilton would have wanted at the end of the day there. See, having a look in the in the Drivers' World Championship, we now jump Lando Norris up into P11 of the championship there. There's still a big battle going on between both the Racing Points, both Renaults and Mercedes of Pierre Gasly. They see, what, 12 points separate all 5 cars there. Hulkenberg jumps Weber and Butler there. Sergio Perez now jumps up past Gasly as well. They're in the gap at the top, 22 points now. It's down to between Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc. I'm very sure both those guys want to take home the championship for Ferrari there, but who is it going to be? In terms of the constructors though, it's only a matter of time before Ferrari wrap up the Constructors' World Championship. It looks like they're going to do the double this season, but the Constructors is almost a guarantee now at this point of the championship there. But thank you all so much for watching this video. Get yourself subscribed if you're new around here as well, and you do want to see more of the HAAS Road to Glory. But that is it for this one, and I will hopefully see you guys next time out for the Japanese Grand Prix.